Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission study session. It is 6:30 PM and I will call the meeting to order. I'd like to thank all the commissioners for your service this evening. I realize you're all volunteering, and so we're all paid the same rate, which is awesome. We'll just jump right into our study session agenda. A1, discuss regular agenda items, which jumps over to C1, consider approval of the attendance matrix for the Planning and Zoning Commission as presented and take appropriate action. Any comments, concerns, thoughts about the attendance matrix? Everyone good? Are you good, Andy?
Absolutely.
All right,
I remember
good.
not being there last time.
Super. That takes us to C2, consider approval of the May 24th, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission minutes and take appropriate action. Everybody good with the minutes? All right, super. That takes us on to D1. D1 is actually a continuation of the public hearing that we opened at our last meeting. Conduct a public hearing and consider the request for a specific use permit and associated detailed site plan for vehicle sales and leasing used on an 8.36 acre tract located at 14325 Gillis Road and take appropriate action. We had asked, according to the minutes, that the applicant provide several pieces of information, and Jennifer, you're doing this one. Why don't you tell us, just bring us up to date.
So, that I can use the mic. So the applicant provided an updated landscape plan and building elevations addressing the concerns and bringing into, or trying to bring the site into compliance in regards to landscaping. As it's mentioned in the staff report that the landscaping is not to compliance. Specifically, the ordinance requires that the front yard be at minimum 5% of the total site area. They're at 4.1%. So they got it as close, I think, as they could. And it's an improvement as to what was previously proposed. They also modified.
What prevented the last 0.9%?
I'm sorry?
What prevented them from getting all the way to the 5%? Because they were talking about removing parking places and all these things, and so what?
I think that's a
prevented it?
question for the applicant to answer specifically. But I know in conversation, that's where they thought, we can definitely do this much. And so again, it's an improvement as from what was previously presented. I'll also point out the tree variety has been modified. They're proposing to include crepe myrtles, Chinese pistache, some Neely R. Stevens, and also some, I can't quite remember the shrub, but shrub for the parking screening. So there is now a mix of planting variety, which was discussed in the meeting. Additionally, the commission had asked for inventory information specific to their current business in Addison, values of those units, tax information as far as sales tax and tax paid to the city. The information that the applicant provided was included in the packet. They only included specific timeframes. So I included everything that the applicant did provide. So that's a supporting document in the agenda packet.
The 0.9% they're short, roughly about how many square feet does that equate to?
I would have to do a quick math. I'm not sure at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be good to know.
Okay.
Or how many parking spaces is that?
Yeah.
That would be a good way to
Okay,
answer it, too.
I can provide that information during the regular meeting.
Okay. And Jennifer, your point on the inventory, I see, you're saying it's at the end of May 31st and then December 31st, so it's just snapshots.
Correct. And there's an applicant statement that provides the median sales price per vehicle, and they stated that it's $175,000. It also mentions that they expect to have approximately 150 vehicles for sale on site at one time, projecting roughly 100 vehicles per month. 50% being internet and internet sales.
Thank you. And quick question for Deputy City Manager John Land. Can you talk to us about one of the values of inventory is 16 million, and another one is almost 12. What amount of that is taxable, or is there a magic percentage that we multiply, or?
So what they have, I think, is a retail value. What they have the vehicles listed for, probably what they sell for. I pulled up their taxable inventory last time, and it was not near that. So there's a real difference between the wholesale value of a car, which is what the business personal property is based on. I can have that number for you in probably 15 minutes.
Okay.
Of what it is currently. And we realized they're taking more space here, so that number would go up. But I think that would probably give you, based on the square footage they have, this is what their taxable inventory is.
Thank you, sir.
So, John, is it good? Is the taxable income, it's a good thing for Farmers Branch? This amount?
As I mentioned last time, this is a fairly large building, and the taxable value of the items in there is not very high for cars. And there's no sales tax. So when you buy a car, it's 6.825%. It's not, the other 2% is what normally would go to a city. Automobiles are exempt from local sales tax, so there's no sales tax. We only get inventory. We get inventory tax and tax off the value of the building, which exists. We'll get that anyway. So really what you're talking about is what is the value of the taxable inventory? And for a vehicle, it's going to be the wholesale value. It's not going to be what it retails for. Or that at least, and I think that will probably bear out.
Super.
How long has this building been in use?
I don't have an answer for that.
I don't know that. I can find that out.
I think at one point, and don't quote me on this, I believe Sourcing Partners may have occupied the
Yeah.
entire building, and I believe they're downsizing now.
So
to
there's probably,
half or
Jim,
less than
what we're
half.
going to be able to pull up is a lease. And it's probably, I don't know, Dallas, you
They
may.
were in it all at one point.
Okay, so they had the whole thing, so. Yeah, so it's probably going to show 100% leased.
It's been a while, I don't know how long, I can ask the broker, it's been a while since they were in all of it. It's sat there for, hard to lease space during the pandemic.
Any questions for staff? No? All right.
Well, yeah, I guess, so if we're at, I guess maybe this is to ask at the open meeting, the 4.1% versus the 5%. But I have to say, their landscaping is a huge improvement. And the reason, I mean, it's a 4.1, but what they have in each spot is height and lower height and texture and whatever, a lot of different variety of nice landscaping. So it's just not a row of hedges or a row of flowers or whatever. They've really done a nice job in I have to say, whoever did the landscaping redo.
All of us, we worked on it really hard, so did staff. We got
Yeah.
good feedback on how to make it better.
Yeah.
It was.
Can you give us your name and address?
Oh, Dallas Cothran, 2201 Main Street.
Thank you.
They were very helpful. We went through, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 versions of it to make it a little better, so, yeah, it was good.
Well, I think it's good. So, I mean, I don't know what they're gonna say. What is staff saying about the 4.1?
So, again, as I mentioned, the new landscape plan is an update and is an improvement to what was previously presented, and the
Definitely.
goal from the commission in their motion was to bring the site as close to compliance as possible, which I
Okay.
believe they achieved, or tried to achieve.
Yes. I think it's good. Okay.
I pulled up the DCAD on the existing location. It's $3.9 million. So it's the taxable value of the current inventory at the Addison location on Billy Mitchell. It's 3.9 million.
And what is our tax rate on that? That
That's
3.9 is the wholesale value of the existing inventory.
that's
and
the
right?
taxable value of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
inventory. So
Yeah.
that would, I'll tell you what that means to us a year.
Well,
I think whatever number John's about to say is probably not gonna be something that, you know, we think is gonna be adequate for that space. But at the same time, I mean, the applicant did come back, they met our request. I think what they're presenting here is generally in line with what we want in the east side, as in terms of just the aesthetic of the building. I'm not gonna say the business, obviously, we have an issue with the business, but I think what John's about to tell us is probably not gonna be like, oh, wow, yeah, it's a lot of tax revenue for the city, but I think for where we're at now, which is a transition, I think this could potentially
Right.
be a good option for us to consider in the interim.
And that is based off a smaller square footage in the Addison facility.
Correct, but I mean, no matter how much space we're gonna have, I mean, I think the number's gonna go up, it's just not gonna be some, you know, big money generating business for the city, but,
About $23,215.
which is nothing, it's a drop in the bucket.
times
but-
three, well, 3 times the inventory, but that number's way low. I don't know where DK got that number, but I didn't supply it. You have what we think our inventory to be, so if you do the math, it's, you know,
I think you're bringing, you know, a business to that part of town that isn't, right now, isn't something that we have in that part of town. You do have a certain clientele that want those cards. A lot of those transactions probably happen online. I would think they probably don't come, but you still get Farmers Branch is still somewhat on the map. And, you know, ideally, would I like to see something better? Yes. But I think the applicant did their part in terms of coming back to the table with our action items. And
Right. I do too.
we're gonna have to make a decision in terms of, do we want this or not?
I do too.
Any more questions on this one? Super, thank you. And then item D2, conduct a public hearing and consider a request to amend the comprehensive zoning ordinance related to development standards for outdoor seating areas, including but not limited to amending Article 2 zoning districts and uses, Article 3 zoning district dimensional standards, and Article 4.3 parking and loading, and take appropriate action. Is this yours too, Jennifer? All right, super. Any questions?
I have a question about the list of business types that was provided. Were there any others under consideration, or you feel this is a comprehensive list, or I'm just concerned about, there could be other potential uses where this type of amenity would be advantageous, but that might not be on that list.
So this list was a combination of looking at what types of uses currently have outdoor seating areas in the city, including those that participated in the Open Texas or the CARES patio program that the city did, the temporary ones. And then looking at which types of uses are typically known for having outdoor patios. So that's how that list came to be. Could there be other uses that could have outdoor patios within the front yard specifically? It's possible. We believe this is a good starting place. Now, if the commission feels that there are other uses that should be included in that list, I mean, we're welcome to feedback.
So is this everybody that applied?
So, let me explain kind of in a nutshell why this amendment's being brought forward. This amendment specifically is being brought forward partly because of the temporary outdoor patios that have gone up due to the pandemic that we experienced and the impacts to those businesses and the city trying to find ways to offset that impact. So those patio areas were intended to be temporary. However, they've seen great success. Many businesses have survived because of those patio areas or outdoor seating areas. So there is now a demand to keep them. And we are now seeing businesses, specifically a business coming to Farmers Branch that wants an outdoor patio specifically within that front setback area. Currently, the way the ordinance is structured, that front yard has to be free and clear of structures, uses. So that's how this amendment came to be, to enable these outdoor seating areas within that front yard setback. And allow these, what are temporary outdoor patio areas to be permanent and in conforming with a potential amendment to the zoning ordinance.
I was gonna say, and I would add that the biggest issue that we found with respect to existing zoning regulations has to deal with really the properties that have the straight light industrial zoning district on them because of language within the ordinance that prohibits use and activity happening in that front yard. So, but as we worked through this, we recognize properties with LR1, LR2 developed conditions. The buildings are probably set farther back than the minimum required front yard setback. So they could still have the patio improvements because these regulations deal with what's in the required front yard. So really where it's of importance to allowing for this amendment is for the properties that have the LI zoning district because their buildings, in many cases, are probably at a 30-foot setback or less. And so we're trying to be accommodating, particularly in that light industrial zoning district where we're starting to see some of these types of businesses that are locating in that area and wanting to take advantage of having the outdoor patio or seating area.
So when does this temporary allowance of the folks that did build the outdoor seating, when does it expire, or is
So
it?
they were granted 120 days, however, I believe the city manager's office has extended that, those improvements.
We followed up with all of it, because we told them, because this is a 120-day installation, you may turn out to hate it. I would rather have my parking back. You may say, I love it, and I don't ever want it to go away, and then we'll have to figure that out. So of the ones we put in, 100% of them want to keep them. And we actually have, I think we mentioned, we have a restaurant that's coming that was driving down Spring Valley and saw the beer garden at Odd Muse and stopped and asked about it, and they're now coming, and we've provided an incentive to build them a patio, provided that they're legal. But that was a big reason that they came to Farmers Branch. They were not looking at Farmers Branch. It's Lockhart's Barbecue, and they're doing a new venture, and they saw that.
What building?
The Flex Press Digital, it's on the same, it's directly across the same parking lot as Odd Muse. I don't know, you've been to Odd Muse?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen pictures.
So Odd Muse is a good example in a light industrial zoning district where the, their outdoor seating areas in the required front yard, however, just because of existing condition, the building's right at the 30-foot setback. So, there's, if someone wanted to come in and build an outdoor patio under the current zoning regulations, they wouldn't be permitted in that front yard. So this amendment would allow for that flexibility to allow for improvements within that front yard setback.
So I do have a question. So in viewing the layouts of the patios, I noticed that if you look at Coquitas, if you notice that they have some really very nice cement rock enclosures sitting within their fence row, essentially, and plantings there. But what I drove by there today, and then when you look at all of the others, I think some of the others that are out into the parking lots, they just have the fence rails, and that's all. So is there any concern that there may be a car be able to go through those? And because that's not really a lot of protection from someone sitting and eating. Whereas these wonderful little stone things, which are used as planters, and they now have Russian sage in them, it's just huge now, is a very nice amenity. So is there any concern about that?
So, it's a good segue, I guess, question to segue into part of staff's recommendation. If you notice, our recommendation is to continue this public hearing to the next meeting. And the reason for that is to discuss some of those items. The current draft amendment, the way we've drafted it is to allow those, or to, and light industrial not require any setback of those outdoor patios. And in local retail 1, local retail 2, and commercial, having a setback ranging from 5 to 10 feet. And the reason for that is just based on the outdoor seating areas that we have today, that are right up to the street or very close to the street. So a good example of an existing one pre-COVID, I'll say, is the Wayback Burger on Midway and McEwen.
Yes.
Alpha, thank you. They have an outdoor seating area that's right up to the street. I don't know exactly if it's right on the property line or how close to the right of way. And it's existed there for quite some time now. So because of those existing conditions and the temporary outdoor patios that we've seen, we've allowed for those, for a minimum buffering from the street. Now, as far as I'm aware, there hasn't been an issue with vehicles.
Well, that was
being
built
impacted.
up, and there's a cement border there. No, there's no way that a car could get to that patio
Okay.
in driving it, I don't think. I mean, I'm not looking at it, but I
Well,
don't.
and keep in mind, those planters that you're referring to, those were actually there at the center. They were actually within the walkway, if you will. And so what they did is they took some of those and they relocated them and used them to help create the perimeter.
Well, they now have planters. Those planters those aren't gonna stop a car. I mean, but the cement things would. But the planters, I mean, they look nice. I love all of the plantings around that area. But the tall planters, probably ceramic, are not gonna stop a car going through, probably. The cement ones are. I just wondered if there was a concern,
Yeah,
John?
no, and I would say, looking at that, there's always a concern anytime you're bringing something closer to the traffic, but a car would be parked there normally, and you don't really have a concern about, well, there's a car coming this way, there's a car there, what's gonna keep them from hitting that car, or driving through the front of a building. So there are always concerns, but we felt like these were built in such a manner, it's in a parking lot with, a travel lane. There's not much of a way to get speed there.
Was to say, yeah, I mean, ideally in a parking lot, the vehicles are traveling at a much lower rate of speed
Right.
compared to some of the sites that are, say, adjacent to Spring Valley.
Like at Cadillac, that was close to a roadway, and if you'll notice, the
Right.
parking spots were taken off the street, and it was striped where there's no parking, so it pushes the traffic further away. That was more of a concern, because that was the closest one. We had actual traffic on the street. Everything else is an interior on a parking lot or on a sidewalk.
Well, would the same be if it was going down Spring Valley? How far setback are those?
Well, it's off the street, and it's probably, I
they're-
think it's in
they're-
your packet.
They're probably roughly at a 0-foot setback from the property line, and so keep in mind, you've got a small parkway area. My guess is ranging somewhere from
Right.
6 to maybe 9 feet, if that, and I think that's generous.
That's a big yard in front. Okay, got it. Just wondered.
So I think we need to move this discussion downstairs because we're
Oh, here we
running
go.
out of time. I'm going to go ahead and move on to A2, discuss agenda items for future planning and zoning commission consideration. Does anyone have a burning topic that we need to add to the study list? If not, I will close the study session at 6:53 PM.
Andy, you